Hey there, welcome to the DFS Build MLB edition. I'm Kevin Roberts, ready to go over this tiny 4-game early slate for MLB DFS. Hopefully, you can jump on it early and have some success at DraftKings with the advice I will bestow upon you. Obviously, it's a tiny slate, so we have to take some hard stands, eat some chalk, and obviously just hope that variance goes our way because you got to get everything right on a tiny slate. You don't have a whole lot of wiggle room. But yeah, so if anything helps you here, please give this video a like and also subscribe to the channel. We do MLB, NFL, and NBA regularly as much as we possibly can, trying to do showdown slates when it makes sense, and also main slates. We'll have the NFL main slate coming up probably today. And if you're playing Thursday Night Football DFS, please hit the video at the end of this video to get my picks for the Jets and Patriots game. All right, so obviously today is dominated by Thursday Night Football, and that's okay. But before we get there, we have an early slate starting at 12 Central. So let's dive into it. First game, we have the Giants at Baltimore taking on the Orioles. So obviously the Giants get a little bit of a park upgrade, even though this park has not been amazing for offense. It's still decent, and it's certainly better than Oracle Park. So so the Giants, I liked the Giants going into last night. I did not do a video on it, but I did like them, and I played them with the Dodgers, and I did okay. I ended up cashing. I wish I could have given that advice out so people could have benefited from it, but it is what it is. Just the way the cookie crumbles, so to speak. All right, so the Giants, Logan Webb taking on the Orioles. Obviously, this isn't fun. This isn't a good park. All the numbers look good for him. He's a good pitcher. He's a good value at only 8.4K. I will say he has been struggling as of late. He has not topped 10.3 fantasy points in any of his last 4 outings. Yeah, so it hasn't been good. On the year, 3.53 ERA, 161 strikeouts, 16.6 fantasy points per game. He is considerably worse on the road, 13 points per game, as opposed to 19.5 at the pitcher-friendly park in the Bay Area. So I don't love Logan Webb here on this slate against a very powerful Orioles offense that has a 180 collective ISO. His numbers don't really give way to a ton of power, and he's not really a gas can. He has not been great lately, though. So if you want to stack up the Orioles, I think you can do it because it's a small slate, and I don't think they're going to be super, super owned because he is a good pitcher. But this is one I'd probably just play both sides of a little bit. I think Logan Webb's a really good price at 8.4K. And if you don't want to go all the way up at 10.9K for Chris Sale, and you don't like Zach Eflin at 8.7K, I think Logan Webb is an okay try. Just not something I feel amazing about. Okay. If it was a big slate, I would definitely absolutely avoid Logan Webb, and I would have a little bit of interest in the Orioles if Webb was going to be owned. But if I go and look at the ownership for this slate, Logan Webb is the 4th highest owned pitcher at 21%. So tiny bit of leverage there, but not enough that I feel like super, super excited to play Orioles. I think if you get to a couple Orioles or have them as a secondary stack, no big deal. But they're not really a full stack for me. On the other side, I do actually like the Giants quite a bit just because they do get a park upgrade. They have, they have a lot of lefties who hit for power. Obviously, Zach Eflin's numbers are showing reverse splits with righties getting a 158 ISO. He doesn't have a very high strikeout rate, though. Let's check real quick what his ownership is. He's the 3rd highest owned pitcher at 36%. So if that sticks, again, that just doubles down. Giants do have some power. The projected lineup isn't quite as good as it normally is, so that's worth noting. And Eflin is also, like Webb, a good real life pitcher. He's just not a guy I really want for fantasy. It's not a bad matchup for him. They have a 26.2% collective whiff rate. So Eflin is fine and probably a little bit safer than Webb, but I kind of like the Giants here. It's a small slate. We have to take stands. If Eflin is going to be that owned, I think the Giants in a park upgrade, especially being overlooked based off of the ownership percentage here, they look pretty appealing to me. All right, next up here, we have the Braves at Great American Ballpark against the Reds. Chris Sale looks like the best pitcher of the slate. Very pricey at 10.9K, but we have to play him a little bit or a lot. He's averaging almost 25 fantasy points per game on the road. He has not faced the Reds yet, and obviously this is a dangerous park for pitching. So that is worth noting. And also, he is by far the highest owned pitcher on the slate, 55% ownership. He does have the best projection. He's probably the safest. He probably has the best ceiling, but I honestly want to play both sides of this one. It's a 4-game slate. Yeah, you can just go 100% Chris Sale and you probably get away with it. But if Chris Sale bottoms out, it's probably because the Reds teed off. So you can get monster leverage right away. I do think you could argue both ways here as far as like, if you're kind of hesitant on Sale, you could just go underweight on Sale and then just hopefully you hit the other pitchers on the slate that do well. But if he's not going to hit, I kind of think the Reds get it going here. 166 collective ISO. They do have a 25% whiff rate, but I mean, they do have some power and it's a hitter's park. So I think the Reds are pretty interesting. He's actually showing reverse splits as far as power numbers go on the year, and he's got a really good K rate. I'm talking about Chris Hill here, obviously. So it's not safe. I think if I was doing 20 lineups, I'd do like maybe 10% Reds. But what I actually would want to do is just go get like a cheap GPP and max it out with like 60% Reds or something, and just like really go after that leverage in another contest. And then for like your main contest, I would really prioritize Sale. So Sale is the best pitcher. I'm going to be overweight on him or just right around the field, but I do think it'd be really fun to target him, outside of the main contest you're playing in the early slate. And the other side are the Braves, who look pretty good going up against Julian Aguilar. 250 ISO given up against the lefty. So obviously we can start from left side of the plate. Michael Harris, Matt Olson, Jared Kelenic. They don't have a ton of lefties here, but we can start with them as a secondary stack or one-offs because they have the best numbers. Aguilar does not have a very good K rate. It's even worse against righties, honestly, and he's still giving up a 180 ISO there. So we can go for the full stack. The only problem is the Braves are probably going to be pretty chalky on this slate. Moving on here, we'll hit the Twins and Indians. Simeon Woods Richardson will be playing for Minnesota, going up against the Guardians. Or I said Indians, didn't I? Sorry. Guardians. He'll be taking on the Guardians, who have a 155 collective ISO, and more importantly, they don't really strike out that much, below 20% K rate. He's not really a strikeout guy. His walks are a little bit higher than you want to see, but he doesn't give up much power. So really, he's not a fun guy to target for GPPs, but he's also not a guy I want to play. So Simeon Woods Richardson's only 5.9. So there's that. I mean, he saves you cash. And I guess if you're going to play Chris Sale, you probably have to consider him. I just don't like him. I think if I'm building out a single entry lineup, I'm looking at Sale as my SP1, and my SP2 is not going to be Simeon Woods Richardson. Guardians are totally an okay stack because they don't strike out and they have some power, and they're facing a guy that is not scary. On the other side, Joey Cantillo is a decent prospect or good prospect. He's had really good success recently. He really was bad earlier in the year, but lately 24.9 and 36.6 fantasy points in his last two outings. So if that is what we can come to expect from him at only 7.1K, feel pretty good about that. The Twins do have a lot of power, 198 collective ISO. They don't strike out that much. It's below 21% whiff rate. He is walking. He's got major reverse splits so far. Small sample size to be sure, but 344 ISO and 13.5% walk rate against lefties. Not great. So you can play both sides of this, absolutely. Sorry, still getting over a cold. So Twins look good in a vacuum for sure. It's hitting me hard. But I mean, on a small slate, you need an SP2. You need to save some money. I think Joey Cantillo is the lean I have in this game for sure at 7.1K. Last game of the slate, Rangers and Jays. Two good pitching options in Kevin Gausman. He looks really nice at his 7.6K price. And on the other side, of Kumar Rocker taking on the Jays at 7.8K. I like these guys both quite a bit. Their ownership, Kevin Gausman's coming in as the second highest owned guy at 36%. So he's probably the one I'd want to target a little bit with, with Texas bats. Texas is not at full strength with Corey Seager on the IR. They don't have a really scary ISO, but they also don't strike out that much, and Gausman's been super erratic all year. Kumar Rocker was good in his MLB debut, 18 fantasy points in just 4 innings. It's unclear how long his leash is going to be, but he has high strikeout upside. He's a very, very good prospect. The Jays don't strike out much, and they have a little bit of power, but I think I'd lean Kumar Rocker for sure here. And like I said, Gausman you can play at 7.6, but if he's going to be that owned, second highest owned pitcher of the slate, and you don't really want to play around with Reds for Sale, that's a really good leverage spot if we can fire up some Rangers. All right, so for the most part, I think logically speaking, you want to play Sale, and then my SP2 is going to be Cantillo. I think if you want to eat the chalky Gaussman, just pair Gaussman and Sale, and that's your chalk, and then you get different elsewhere in your stacks. Totally fine with that. But I would prefer, though, Kumar Rocker if I'm going to pay up over Cantillo. Cantillo is my top SP2. Kumar Rocker is probably my second favorite. Boy, it's getting me good today. But yeah, so as far as stacks go, Braves look like the most obvious stack. Twins are a pretty appealing stack if you want to play both sides of the Cantillo game. And then I also like the Rangers for leverage, and the Giants. I love the park upgrade. I think they are very interesting too. But if we're looking for the number one stack, it's definitely going to be the Braves. I just think on a 4-game slate, we got to look for leverage spots and take a hard stand. If you don't want to do Sale with Reds, then I think going with Texas bats against Gausman is pretty appealing. All right, so coughing aside, hopefully we got some good advice out there, and you guys have a good idea of what you want to do on this early slate, and hopefully you can find some success. Be sure to look out for the other NFL videos coming out tonight, specifically the one at the end of this video. Thanks for watching, and good luck.